Okay, welcome everybody. This is another session on Ask Your Flute Teacher questions. Okay, Flute Teacher, hi.
Hello.
Today I thought I would ask you about storing my flute. I've got a couple of different flutes here. You've got your flute here, and we keep them in their cases. Do you recommend using, and I use it on this one because I had one, but do you recommend using those little pieces of paper that preserve it from moisture?
The little bag that kept everything dry?
Sometimes they're in bags, but sometimes it's just a sheet of paper. I'm going to show you an example of this one, right? This is. We used to use this at where I worked. We used to use this to put with stuff, like even in the bags. Like if we were going to put a chrome plated something or other, we would put these in the bag to protect it. So do you recommend the?
I haven't ever heard of doing that.
Okay, this is corrosion inhibitor.
Where did you get that?
When I got the flute, this came with the flute.
Oh, really?
And I'm familiar with using it like with coated things. So what else would you use?
I wouldn't use anything to keep the inside dry. I practice enough that.
Oh, there's a jab coming. All right, but suppose you were incapacitated. You had a motorcycle accident and you were laid up for a year, right?
Oh, geez.
How are you protecting the flute?
Taking it out and playing it.
Not in the hospital.
Yes.
No.
As you're laying there, I can see that.
Come on now. So, I mean, obviously we're keeping them in our case, and we do dry them out. I always dry my flute out when I'm done playing it. Always. What else? Keep it in the case.
Yep.
I know. I understand. You play it, yeah, right. But what if you can't, right? So.
The only thing that's going to dry out if you excessively try to dry it out is the pads, and then they won't work.
Do you know that's exactly, I was actually thinking about that because the pads are made of cloth?
They're a felt type material.
Felt, okay. And they can dry out.
Mm-hmm. Well, when they dry out, they leak.
So they do dry out. They're gonna dry out.
If you don't play it for 100 years, yes.
If you played your flute every day, would your pads ever dry out?
They wouldn't dry out. They'd probably wear out first.
They'd get moldy?
No.
They'd get...
They wouldn't seal the hole as well.
And that's why people change them out how often?
Every couple of years when you get it checked.
Wow, so I'm overdue.
No.
No? Because
You
I don't
haven't
play
played
that
them
much? I deserve that. Okay, so playing the flute keeps the pads viable.
But if you do a lot of playing,
Yeah.
then you're going to need an overhaul of the flute, and you might as well get the pads replaced at the same time.
Wouldn't people, I think I've heard that flute players do get their pads.
Yes, and their flute's overhauled.
What do they do to overhaul it?
Soup to nuts.
So that you'll know.
Everything. So they're checking the springs, they're checking the rods.
To make
they're
sure everything
checking
is functional.
Yep, the keys, to make sure there's no bends. Usually when you get it overhauled, they take out any scratches if you arrange for that. The pads are replaced and properly seated.
Holy cow. So they do the whole thing.
Yeah.
Does it make a huge difference? Huge.
Yes, for
Somebody told me years ago you always use, when you have the word huge and other things like that, you pronounce the H. So it makes a huge difference?
It can. It's like playing a piano that's out of tune.
Yeah.
And the strings, some are a little looser than others.
Yeah.
And when the piano tuner comes
Yep.
and overhauls the piano,
Yep.
they refelt the...
Well, if nothing else, they take that tool and they put it on there,
Well,
and then they
that's-
reseat it, new wax, and
yeah.
I actually had one of those tools one time, and I
Yep.
was trying to
It's a
tune a
metric
piano,
wrench.
but I didn't have any of it. That's right, it's a socket, but I didn't have any wax, and I didn't know that I was supposed to use wax.
Yep.
So I was breaking the old wax to get the thing in tune, and I broke one string, but yeah. So okay, so keeping it dry, keeping it clean. Getting it overhauled after, if you don't play it that much, maybe once every 5 years?
I wouldn't think that's a good use of money because overhauling is expensive.
What are they? A couple $100?
Thousands.
Really?
Mhm.
Depending on who you get to do it.
I paid $1,000 to a local guy in Connecticut.
Wow.
Did he do a good job?
Oh, Tim, you talking about?
Yeah, a reasonable good job.
Yeah. Well, so you get what you pay for.
Now realize you can see a flute on the wall in the back. That's not a flute we play.
Yeah, in our other house we had that flute right there, hanging on the wall between the dining room and the living room, and it was just for the fun of it. We got it at a junk shop for what, $10, $20, something like that.
Something like that.
And so it's just there for. There's a recorder there. Both of those were viable instruments at one time, but we just put them up. Well, thank you, and I'm sorry you're choking, but thank you for your help in
It's okay.
in letting people know how to properly care for their flute. See ya.